Machina feels like he's from a completely different set to the rest of the 7 kings. He shares none of their design elements, and as a consequence of that, is the best of the 7. Judgment cost of 4, and as his effect, once per turn, you can pay X to search your deck for a resonator or addition with no attributes and a cost of X, then place it into your hand. While you're paying the cost twice, it's a +1, and for the same overall cost as the other 7 kings, 2, you can get some really good cards. Machine Lab, Artificial Moon, Maria Bella, Mechanical Knight, and Legionus are all good choices. Mechanical Screw is just a 1-drop and is a great choice too. While it's restricted, Machina is such a breath of fresh air while writing this series. After 6 cards that range from awkward or under-supported to boring or crap, Machina is actually worth running. He was relevant right until the end of the cluster too. He doesn't have an awkward or iffy effect. He's good. Then he casts Judgment and becomes an 800/800 7 kings. But surprisingly not a machine. At this time we didn't know that he was still human. Enter ability to place 3 resonators and or additions with no attribute onto the field. While affinity for machines is a common theme among machines, being able to just plop down a remote control golem or a Maribel, a native 10-drop and a 5-drop respectively, is pretty big. It's the setup for game-winning moves and a great recovery action. Chances are you're filtering your deck of smaller resonators and additions via the ruler side, so drawing into Maribel and Golem isn't out of the question. While Golem does have an affinity for machines, he's not getting to the point where he's free, or close enough, not like Remote Control Beast. Nevertheless, 3 additional resonators with no attribute do bring down much of the Machine Lord's cost by 3, very likely free by that point, as Machina has superb recovery skills. March is a void chant that gives your resonators with no attribute +300/+300 and swiftness. Push for game there and then. He can banish a resonator with no attribute to prevent all damage that would be done to him for the turn. Surprisingly not a bad ability. He gains a fair few +1s and has recovery via cards like Machine Lab. Won't stop a Black Moonbeam, but a lot of things aimed at him will be stopped. He's also commonly played with Wind, so Wind Secluded Refuge, a card that can stop Black Moonbeam, fits this deck nicely. His God's Art, Invincible Soldiers, cost 3 void, and your resonators with no attribute cannot be destroyed that turn. They can attack without any risk. Again, a game-winning push. Part of me thinks this is a contingency plan for the prior turn with March of the Machine Lord. If that fails for whatever reason and you're still alive, this. Or if the game drags on to turn 7, both on the same turn. Finally is Machina's Regalia, Maribel, the Steel Doll. Damage prevention for Machina's J-Ruler of 200, actually a decent amount. Since these Regalia don't have Mythic, you can have a few out and just prevent anything coming his way. It's not a hard lock once per turn either, it'll trigger each time. With her own effect you can pay 5, 3 if your ruler is Machina, for her to become a 1000/1000 machine resonator. No keywords, just a 1000/1000 resonator. Kind of funny looking at this card now in a world with Schrodinger, a card very much made in the same vein as Maribel, but so much cheaper and better. Even the current Maribel is so much cheaper than this one. But she was kind of okay for 3 back in the day. She can also tap, pay 1, and sack herself to destroy target Regalia. Never seen it actually used, but back then Regalia didn't have Mythic, you could flood the board with them, so that's probably why. Would be amazing nowadays though. Going back to Alice Cluster tournament results, I'd forgotten how prominent Machina was. I remembered it being something of a super fun, but casual deck. It wasn't. It was competitive, right until Lapis Cluster. People like to remember Alice Cluster as just all reflect all the time, nothing but Lancelot. But this wasn't the case in terms of results, just what was being played by the majority. Machina turns up in a lot of top 8s. This makes Machina the first genuinely good ruler, but on top of that, he bridges the void of fun and competitive.